This Order 7 Rule 10 provides that plaint may be returned, that is, plaint is to be returned by the court at any stage of the proceeding for presentation in proper court. What is presentation in proper court? That means if the suit would have been instituted in another court, but it has been wrongly instituted in a particular court, then in that case, the court can pass order for return of the plaint to the plaintiff for presentation in the proper court. So you go through the language of Order 7, Rule 10. Subject to the provisions of Rule 10A. Rule 10A are the provisions which are to be followed when court passes order for return of the plaint and the defendant has already entered appearance. In such case, the court, on the application of the plaintiff, may fix a date for appearance of both the parties in the court where the plaint is to be presented after it is returned, after the same is returned to the plaintiff. So that is, those are the special provisions to be followed while returning the plaint when the defendant has already entered appearance in the suit. So subject to the provisions as laid down in Rule 10A, the plaint shall at any stage of the suit be returned. The plaint shall means there is a mandate that plaint shall at any stage of the suit be returned to the presented to the court in which the suit should have been instituted. That means if the suit has been instituted in a wrong court and that court lacks either territorial jurisdiction or a pecuniary jurisdiction, then the court shall return the plaint to the plaintiff. To whom it will be returned? It will be returned to the plaintiff. What for? For presentation of the suit or presentation of the plaint in the proper court. That is, the court in which it should have been instituted. Explanation. For the removal of doubts, it is hereby declared. For the removal of doubt, it has been declared that a court of appeal or revision may direct, after setting aside the decree passed in a suit, the return of the plaint under this sub-rule. That means when an appeal has been preferred against a judgment or a decree, or it is any order is challenged in revision, in such case, the appellate court or the revisional court, by setting aside the decree or the judgment or order, pass order directing the return of the plaint. So, when a plaint is to be returned, the simple answer is that when the court has no jurisdiction or territorial or pecuniary jurisdiction only to entertain the suit. That is, when the suit has been filed in a wrong court, suit has been instituted in a wrong court. So, at any stage, even prior to passing of judgment, the plaint can be returned. At any stage, but the court shall return the plaint for presentation of the same. What? In the court in which the suit should have been instituted. Explanation added to this section clarifies that this power of return of the plaint can be exercised by appellate court or revisional court while sitting in appeal or revision and by setting aside the decree, judgment or order. Now, sub-rule 2 provides what is the procedure to be followed while returning the plaint. So, court passes order that the plaint is to be returned for presentation in proper court, that in a court which that suit would have been instituted. In such case, This sub-rule 2 provides, while passing order, what is on returning the plaint, the judge shall endorse thereon. What is endorse? Write, mention in writing thereon, either in the reverse of the plaint or endorse thereon, the date of its presentation, the date on which the plaint had been presented in that court, the date of return, the brief reason for return, and the name of the party presenting it, and a brief statement of the reasons for returning it. What procedure is to be followed? Court passes order that the plaint is to be returned. Then what is the procedure? That if such an order has been passed that the plaint is to be returned, then the court will mention by giving an endorsement in the plaint regarding the party, mentioning the party who had presented the plaint, the date on which that plaint had been presented, the date on which that was returned, and a brief statement showing the reason of the return. Now, Rule 10A. Previously in Rule 10, it has been subject to the provisions contained in Rule 10A. What Rule 10A? Rule 10A has been inserted by way of amendment in Order 7. What it provides? That once the court passes an order for return of the plaint, and by that time, if the defendant has already appeared, in such case, the plaintiff may file an application, but requesting the court to fix a date for appearance of both the parties in that court. And if on receiving that application, the court may allow the petition and fix a particular date for appearance of both the plaintiff and the defendant after the suit of the plaintiff is presented in the proper court after return of the plaintiff. In such case, further notice need not be sent by the court in which the plaintiff is presented, and that date which has been fixed by the court which returned the plaintiff, that as if it is a notice of both the parties that they should appear in that court, and no further summons will be issued to the parties. Unless the court where the plaintiff is filed subsequently thinks notice is necessary. What's Rule 10A? Power of court to fix a date of appearance in the court where plaintiff is to be filed after its return. So plaintiff is returned, what for? Only one reason, that it is to be presented in a proper court. That is, it should have been instituted in a court which is competent to try it. So only on such ground the plaintiff is to be returned, only ground when the court lacks jurisdiction, the plaintiff is to be returned. So where in any suit, after the defendant has appeared, suppose the defendant has already appeared, at any stage of the suit, the plaintiff can be returned. Suppose in a suit, the plaintiff has already appeared, and the court is of opinion that the plaintiff should be returned. Thereafter, the court is of opinion that the plaintiff should be returned. Then in such case, it shall before doing so intimate its decision to the plaintiff. Before returning, that order will be intimated. The court is bound to inform that order to the plaintiff. Why? Because the defendant has already entered appearance, is appearing in the case. So in such case, the plaintiff will be informed that by the court, that the court passes an order for return of the plaintiff. In such case, the plaintiff may file an application praying the court to fix a date for appearance of him and of the defendant in the court in which he will subsequently file the plaint. If such an application is filed, then the court will fix a date, and that will be a notice to both the parties that on that particular date, both parties will appear in the new court where the plaint is to be filed after its return. You go through the language. Where an intimation is given to the plaintiff. When intimation is given to the plaintiff regarding return of the plaint, that means when defendant is in appearance, the court takes a decision for return of the plaint after the appearance of the defendant. So in such case, the court shall intimate its decision to the plaintiff. What type of decision? That it passes an order, it is going to pass an order, it has passed an order for return of the plaint. Where an intimation is given to the plaintiff under sub-rule 1, the plaintiff may make an application to the court. The court which has passed order for return of the plaintiff may make an application that specifying the court in which he proposes to present the plaint after its return. In that application, the plaintiff will inform the court that he desires to file that plaint in a particular court, in which has jurisdiction. Specifying the court in which he proposes to file that plaint after its return in a court. Then, praying that the court may fix a date for the appearance of the parties in the said court. And further, the plaintiff may pray that the court should fix a date for appearance of both the parties in the court in which he proposes to file his plaint after its return. Third, requesting that the notice of the date so fixed may be given to him and to the defendant. Court is prayed to fix a date for appearance of both the parties in which he proposes to file the case after a plaint after it is returned. And simultaneously, third prayer will be that the notice to fix a date, the date which is to be fixed, the fact of fixation of that date, notice of that date should be given to him and to the defendant. Now, where an application is made by the plaintiff under sub-rule 2, sub-rule 2 what? Application is made by the plaintiff when? When the defendant has already appeared in the case. In such case, the plaintiff will make an application. To whom? To the court which has passed the order for return of the plaint. What for? What for? That intimating the court that he proposes to file that plaint in a particular court, in a new court. The name of that court it will be intimated, and again there will be a prayer. The court should fix a date for appearance of the parties. And third prayer, the date if is fixed, that should be intimated. That the date must be informed to him and the defendant for their appearance in that court on that date. Where an application is made by the plaintiff under sub-rule 2, if an application is filed, what the court will do? The court shall before returning the plaint, and notwithstanding the order for return of plaint was made by it on the ground that it has no jurisdiction. Always you know that court passes order for return the plaint on the ground that it has no jurisdiction. Even if the court has no jurisdiction, when such a petition has been filed by the plaintiff for fixation of a date for appearance of both the parties in the new court where the plaintiff to file after it is returned, then the court will pass an order. What? Pass an order and fix a date for the appearance of the parties in the court in which the plaintiff is proposed to be presented. Then the court will, considering the application of the plaintiff, pass an order fixing a date for appearance both the plaintiff and the defendant in the new court in which the plaintiff proposes to file his plaint after its return. Second, give to the plaintiff and to the defendant notice of such date. Not only fixing the date, the notice regarding that date, notice of that date should be given to both to the plaintiff and the defendant. Then Rule 4 provides, where the notice of the date for appearance is given under sub-rule 3. If the court gives notice of the date, asking informing the plaintiff and the defendant to appear in the new court where the plaintiff proposes to file his plaint after its return, then it says, it shall not be necessary report for the court in which the plaintiff is presented after its return. If in the new court the plaintiff is presented after its return, for that court it will not be necessary to serve the defendant with a summons for appearance in the suit. It is not necessary for that court, because the date of appearance of both the parties in new court, that has been informed to both these parties, both to the plaintiff and the defendant. In such case, it will not be necessary for that new court where the plaintiff is presented after its return to the defendant. Once again, summons is not to be sent to that defendant for appearance on that date. But the court may, that new court may, if sufficient reason is there. Reason means, suppose the date after the expiry of that day, particular date, the plaintiff is presented, or any other circumstances requires notice should be given. If in such case, then only summons will be issued to the defendant to appear in that court after the plaintiff is presented in that court. Then the said notice shall be deemed to be a summons for the appearance of the defendant in the court in which the plaintiff is presented on the date. So the earlier notice given by the court which has passed order for return of the plaintiff, that will be treated as the notice to the defendant through summons for his appearance in that court. Then 5, where the application made by the plaintiff under sub-rule 2 is allowed by the court, the plaintiff shall not be entitled to appeal against the order returning the plaintiff. The question may come, once the plaintiff files an application for fixation of a date of both the parties in the court in which he proposes to file his plaint after its return, then he will not be allowed to prefer appeal against the order of the original court in which the plaint has been filed, which has passed the order for return of the plaint. Why? Because by filing an application for fixation of date in a new court where the plaintiff proposes to file the plaint after its return, he has accepted the order of the court. So that's why once an application has been filed by the plaintiff after its return, then thereafter he will not be allowed to prefer appeal, challenging the order of the original court in which the plaint has been filed, which has passed order for return of the plaint. Now, 10b is also added in order 7 by way of amendment. So this similar power, that is power for return of the plaint, is also available to appellate court and revisional court on hearing appeal. So what it says, power of appellate court to transfer suit to the proper court, where on appeal against an order for the return of the plaint, against an order for return of the plaint, appeal is preferred. While hearing the appeal, the court hearing the appeal, the appellate court confirms such order. Confirm such order means confirm the order of return of the plaint. The court of appeal may, if the plaintiff by an application so desires, while returning the plaint, direct plaintiff to file the plaint. While applying and confirming the order also, if the plaintiff files an application for fixation of a date for appearance of both the parties, in such case, in which the suit should have been instituted, then whether such court is within or without the state in which the court hearing the appeal is situated, that court may also fix a date for appearance of the parties. That is, both the parties, both plaintiff and the defendant, in the new court where that plaint is to be filed. Then in such case, if such a date is fixed, it shall not be necessary for the court in which the plaint is filed, is subsequent to the confirmation of order of return in appeal, if that plaint is filed in the new court. So in such case, it will not be necessary for that court to give further summons, to issue further summons to the defendant, but for his appearance in that court. That is, unless the court in which his appeal is filed for reason to be recorded, otherwise direct. Similar provisions are there in order 7 Rule 10b, which the procedure which is to be followed by the appellate court if it confirms the order for return of the plaint. Then the direction made by the court under sub-rule 1 shall be without any prejudice to the right of the parties to question the jurisdiction of the court in which the plaint is filed or to try the suit. Even if an order is passed for return of the plaint, that has been confirmed by appellate forum, and the appellant, that is plaintiff, files an application that to fix a date for appearance of him and the respondent, that is defendant, in the new court where this plaint is to be filed after its return. And a date has been fixed also for appearance of both the parties, that will not preclude the plaintiff to question the jurisdiction of the new court to entertain the suit. That has been provided in Subrule 2. The direction made by the court under Subrule 1 shall be without any prejudice to the rights of the parties. Both plaintiff and the defendant can question the jurisdiction of the new court in which the plaint is filed to try the suit. Now, we will discuss a very important provision, that is rejection of plaint. What is rejection? When a plaint is rejected, Order 7, Rule 11 of the Civil Procedure Code provide the rules, provide the circumstances in which a plaint is to be rejected. Judicial service examination, in other examination, when a plaint is to be rejected. There are six circumstances in which a plaint is to be rejected. What it says? Rejection of plaint. The plaint shall be rejected in the following cases. You remember it. When the plaint does not disclose the cause of action. First, what is cause of action? Cause of action means the bundle of facts which the plaintiff is required to prove to get relief in the case. Suppose the plaint is read as a whole and it does not disclose any cause of action. There is no ground at all for the plaintiff to file the suit. It doesn't disclose any cause of action in his favor to institute the suit. So in such case, that plaint is to be rejected. The first is, the plaint shall be rejected in the following cases. First, where it does not disclose a cause of action. Then second, when relief claimed in the plaint is undervalued. You are aware of the provision that the plaintiff will value his suit in the plaint for the purpose of jurisdiction of the court. So the court finds that the plaintiff has undervalued the relief, and on being required by the court required him, court passed order directing the plaintiff correct the valuation and pay the proper court fee. In spite of direction of the court to correct the valuation, then within a particular time, within the time fixed by the court, the plaintiff does not correct the valuation, then the plaint is to be rejected. First round, when the plaint does not disclose cause of action. Second, when the plaintiff has undervalued the relief and in spite of direction of the court to correct the valuation, the plaintiff does not correct the valuation. Third is, where the relief claim is properly valued. Relief claim has been properly valued, but the proper court fee has not been paid. Required court fee has not been paid, and the court directs the plaintiff to pay the required court fee within the particular time, within the time to be fixed by the court. Suppose within 7 days or by such and such date, the plaintiff was directed by the court to pay the deficit court fee. He doesn't pay. This is third round. In such case, the plaint is to be rejected. Then, where the suit appears from the statement in the plaint to be barred by any law. This is important. From the statements in the plaint. Suppose plaintiff has filed a suit to get relief in respect of his service under the state government. So law bars the civil court to entertain such suit. When the statement of the plaintiff disclose that it is barred by any other law. Then fifth, where it is not filed in duplicate. So always plaintiff is to file in duplicate. When it has not been filed in duplicate, the plaintiff is to be rejected. Then where the plaintiff fails to comply with the provision of Rule 9. What is Rule 9? Rule 9 earlier discussed. The plaintiff, if the plaintiff is admitted, the plaintiff will be directed to file as many copies of the plaint as defendants, as the number of the defendants, for service of summons to them. If in spite of direction, the plaintiff doesn't file the copies of the plaint, required number of the copies of the plaint for service of the summons to the defendants, in such case, the plaint is to be rejected. That is in 6 cases, 6 circumstances, the plaint is to be rejected. First, again at the cost of repetition, I may say you, and you should know, first, that the plaint does not disclose cause of action. Cause of action means the facts. If the plaintiff is read as a whole, nothing is found for which he is entitled to institution. The plaint does not disclose a cause of action. Second, if the relief claimed is undervalued, it has not been proper valued. Suppose the valuation of for recovery possession of a piece of land. The market value of that land is to be treated as the value of the suit, and accordingly the plaintiff will pay the court fee. Suppose the value of a property or a house is 20 lakh rupees, but it has been valued at only 10,000 rupees. So in such case, the relief has been undervalued, and the court directs the plaintiff to correct the valuation within a time to be fixed, within such date or by such date, or within a week or within 15 days. If within the time fixed by the court for correction of the valuation, the plaintiff does not correct the valuation. Third is when the relief is properly valued, but the required court fee has not been paid, and the court directs the plaintiff to pay the deficit court fee. So, and in spite of by a particular date, and the plaintiff does not pay the deficit court fee within the time fixed by the court, then in such case, the plaintiff is to be rejected. Where the suit appears from the statement in the plaint that it is barred by any other law, then where it is not filed in duplicate, then last is that condition where the plaintiff fails to comply the provisions of Rule 9 of Order 7. What Rule 9? That once the plaintiff is admitted, the court will pass order directing the plaintiff to file as many number of copies of the plaint in plain paper as per the number of the defendants for service of summons. If such a direction has been given, as the plaintiff does not file the required copies of the plaint, in such case, the plaint is to be rejected, provided that the time fixed by the court for the correctness of the valuation or supplying of the requisite stamp paper shall not be extended unless the court for reason to be recorded is satisfied that the plaintiff was prevented by any cause of an exceptional nature for correcting the valuation or supplying the requisite stamp paper, as the case may be, within the time fixed by the court, and that refusal to extend such time would cause grave injustice to the plaintiff. Though there is provision in Order 7 Rule 11 that the plaintiff is to be rejected if within the time fixed by the court, if a relief has been undervalued, that is to be corrected, or deficit stamp court fee is to be paid, and within that stipulated time, if it is not done, then the plaintiff is rejected. Still, a power is given to the court. The court can extend that time if the court considers that there was sufficient reason for the plaintiff for not complying that order, and if time will not be extended, that will cause prejudice to the plaintiff. Now, this is Order 7, Rule 11. Now, 12 says procedure on rejecting plaint. Procedure return of the plaint. What is procedure? The court, while passes an order for return of the plaint, what will mention? That the date, it will make an endorsement in the plaint. What regarding what? That is the person who has presented the plaint, the date on which was presented, the date on which it was returned, a brief order, the brief order, the region of the order in brief for which the plaint is to be returned. That is to be mentioned. Similarly, when a plaint is rejected, what procedure is to follow? Where a plaint is rejected, the judge shall record an order to that effect with the reason for such order. So in the order sheet, not endorsement in the plaint. In the order sheet, judge shall record the order with reason for which the plaint is rejected. This Rule 13 says, where rejection of plaint does not preclude presentation of fresh plaint. You are aware of the provision, the definition of the decree. It has been mentioned. It is to be treated, a rejection of plaint will be treated as a decree. So, in the definition of it includes rejection of plaint and any matter which has been adjudicated as per the provisions of section 144 of the CPC, that is restitution. So here, this Order 7 Rule 13 says, though a rejection order has been passed, that will not preclude the plaintiff to present a plaint on any of the grounds herein before. That will not, if a plaint has been rejected on any of the grounds, as discussed earlier, that will not preclude the plaintiff to bring a fresh suit in respect of the same cause of action. So that will not be barred as res judicata. What Rule 13 says? Where rejection of plaint does not preclude presentation of fresh plaint, not suit, fresh plaint. The rejection of the plaint on any of the grounds herein before mentioned shall not of its own force preclude the plaintiff for presenting a fresh plaint in respect of the same cause of action. This is Order 7 Rule 13. What it says? The rejection of plaint on any of the grounds as mentioned in Order 7 Rule 11 of itself will not preclude the plaintiff to file a fresh plaint on the same cause of action if the suit is within the prescribed period of limitation. So that the rejection order on any of the grounds as mentioned in Order 7 Rule 11 will not operate as res judicata. Now, documents relied on its plaint. So, when the plaintiff relies on some document which is in his power or possession, then he will prepare the list of those documents and file those documents along with the copy of those documents along with the plaint. If it doesn't do so, if it doesn't mention such documents, the list of the documents, or doesn't file, then he will be precluded to rely on those documents unless in future, unless the court permits. So this is the rule, what it says, where a plaintiff sues upon a document or relies upon a document in his possession, sues upon a document which is in his possession or in his power in support of his claim. Plaintiff has filed the suit basing on a document which is in his possession or in his power. Then he shall enter such document in a list that will be called as a list of documents. Then the plaintiff will mention all those documents in a list and shall produce it in court when the plaint is presented by him. Produce those documents and the list of documents while he presents the plaint, and shall at the same time deliver the documents and a copy thereof to be filed with the plaintiff. So now, if the documents are in the possession of the plaintiff or power of the plaintiff, on those documents he sues, he has built up his suit, then he will mention those documents in a list of documents and file those documents along with the copy of the documents along with the plaintiff. Where any such document is not in possession, suppose he relies on a document which is not in possession or power, but it is in the possession of the power of some other person. So it will, then the plaintiff will inform the court the state in whose possession or power it is. This is sub rule 2. Where any such document is not in possession or power of the plaintiff, he shall, wherever possible, if it is possible, state in whose possession or power such document is. Then 3, a document which ought to be produced in court. Ought to be produced in court, which are in possession or power of the plaintiff, on which he sues the defendant. In such case, such documents ought to be filed along with the plaintiff. A document which ought to be produced in court by the plaintiff, when the plaintiff is presented, or to be entered in the list to be added or annexed to the plaintiff, but is not produced. If a document which ought to have been filed along with the plaintiff, or which ought to have been mentioned in the list of the documents, or which ought to have been added with the plaintiff, if that is not produced, shall not, without the leave of the court, be received in evidence on his behalf. Without permission of the court, those documents will not be taken in evidence on behalf of the defendant, the plaintiff. Then nothing in this rule shall apply to document produced for the cross-examination of the plaintiff's witness. Even if a document has not been filed along with the plaintiff, or that document has not been mentioned in the list of the document, that will not preclude the plaintiff to rely on a particular document while cross-examining a witness, or handed over to a witness merely to refresh his memory while cross-examination, or that for the purpose of refreshing memory of a particular witness, that document may be shown. Then Rule 16 says, what is suit on lost negotiable instrument? What is lost negotiable instrument? Negotiable instrument is either a promissory note, bill of exchange, or a check. That is negotiable instrument. So suppose a person files a suit basing on a promissory note. That promissory note is lost. So if copy is available with him, he files a suit basing on that copy. So the lost original promissory note is lost. In such case, he will give a indemnity bond satisfying the court that in future, if somebody will make any claim basing on that negotiable instrument, then he will indemnify the person if a decree is passed in his favor. What it provides? Where the suit is founded upon a negotiable instrument. Suit is founded on negotiable instrument, and it is proved that the instrument is lost. It is proved that the instrument is lost, and an indemnity is given by the plaintiff, and the plaintiff gives an indemnity to whom indemnity is given to the satisfaction of the court against the claim of any other person upon such an instrument. That indemnity is given to the court that if any other person obtains a decree basing on that lost negotiable instrument, the plaintiff will indemnify that amount. So decree then is called, the court may pass such a decree as it would have passed if the plaintiff had produced it. In such case, the court may pass a decree as if the original instrument, original promissory note or original negotiable instrument had been filed before it, and at the same time delivered a copy of the instrument to be filed with the plaintiff. Along with the plaintiff, the copy of the negotiable instrument which is available with the plaintiff, that must be filed. Then production of sub-book. As you know, sometimes sub-book, entries in sub-book is relied or in a particular suit. So save as in so far as is authorized provided by the Bankers Books Evidence Act. Bankers Books Evidence Act is a act which permits a banker, that a bank manager, that banker, to give to furnish the certified copy of his ledger in court, and that will be treated as document, and in such case the original ledger need not be produced. So here the court, that is what it says, save in so far as is otherwise provided by the Bankers Books Evidence Act, where the document on which the plaintiff sues is an entry in a sub. The plaintiff sues or file a suit and relies in an entry in a sub book or the other account in the possession or his power, then the plaintiff shall produce the book or account at the time of filing the plaint together with a copy of the entry on which he relies. Suppose a shopkeeper, he was maintaining a sub book showing the name of the customer and how much amount was due to against him towards the goods purchased by him on credit. That is entry in sub book. Suppose the plaintiff had filed a suit for realization of certain money from a particular customer on basing on that sub book. So in such case, he will produce that sub book along with the plaintiff. So in such case, he will produce that sub book and a copy of that sub entry, copy of the relevant entry in the sub book in the court. Thereafter, the court will, what the court will do? The court or such officer as it happened, the court either himself or by if any other officer to whom he appoints, shall forthwith make the document for the purpose of identification. Mark that document for the purpose of identification, and after examining and comparing the copy with the original, that the court or any other, suppose a Sirasdar or a clerk is directed, you compare the copy along with the entry in the sub book and compare is to be made, and if it is found correct, and if that officer finds that the copy furnished by the plaintiff is correct, copy of the sub book, entry in the sub book, filed along with the sub book is correct, then in such a, then you will certify it and you will return the book to the plaintiff and cause the copy to be filed. In such case, the original sub book will be returned to the plaintiff and the copy will be filed. Why such a provision is there? Because the entire ledger, entire sub book, if it is detained in the court, that will cause a lot of inconvenience to the plaintiff. So that's why, if so far as sub book is concerned, or any account, original account book is produced along with the plaintiff on which the plaintiff relies for realization money, in such case, the plaintiff will file that book along with the copy of the entries of the particular book. And if it is filed, the court either by itself or through any of its officer cause that copy to be compared along with the original sub book, and if it is found that the copy is correct, thereafter the sub book will be returned. These are the provisions regarding filing of documents. One thing you should remember, that the documents on which the plaintiff relies must produce those documents along with the plaint and also the copies thereof. If and mentioning all those documents in the list of documents which is filed along with the plaint. If that document is not mentioned in the list of the document, or that document is not filed in the court along with the plaint, then the plaintiff will be debarred to rely on those documents in future unless the court permits the plaintiff to do so. Thank you.